So, how's everything going with your work? You guys in good shape from last week? Anybody have any problems that you want to mention real quickly? We're going to be talking about how to approach this graphic that you're going to create, and we're going to be preparing you a little bit for your exam, which is on essentially type in Illustrator. Okay, so what you're looking at on the screen, and I assume you see it okay, right? Everybody seeing this okay?
Yep.
Okay. So I have my tiger up there. I created this. Now, I've been working in Adobe Illustrator for, maybe 10 years. You guys basically are at the beginner level with this program. You are not at an advanced level like I'm more or less at an advanced level. I've been working with this program for over 10 years. Let's put it that way. So what I'm able to do with this program is probably a lot more sophisticated than what you're able to do. Since this is a basic course, I'm not looking for you to do something as complex as what I have going on here, my tiger. So I'm not looking for you guys to do something quite as sophisticated as this, but I want to see an effort. I want to see you make an effort. So what I did was I brought in my tiger. I'm going to show you my tiger start, okay? So there's my tiger start. I went out online, found a bitmap. There it is, my tiger face. I specifically went and looked for a face that's facing me, looking directly at me. Okay, can you see what I'm talking about here? He's not turned to the side. He's not turned on an angle, 45-degree or profile. He is looking straight at me. I chose this particular picture because it will save me a lot of time when I actually go in and do the drawing of this animal's face. Now, the assignment calls for you to use a face. It doesn't necessarily say that you have to use a human face. You can use an animal face if you want. A face is a face, and I will accept any kind of face that you want. As a matter of fact, I think you might want to consider using an animal face like perhaps a zebra or a tiger, simply because in the end it probably ends up being a lot easier to do than a human face. Why? Because look at the tiger's face. He's got very unique markings that are easy to render, and in the end you're going to come up with something that's fairly realistic looking. So I suggest you consider it. I don't say you have to do it because I'm not that kind of a person. You do what you want to do, and you make this your own project, but I'm just giving you a suggestion. So what I did, I started this by coming and creating my initial layer, which has my tiger on it. I'm going to close these layers. Layer 1, okay, I'm going to name that Trace. Okay, so you see I've named it Trace. There. I've named this Trace, and I actually have a spelling error on this. I'm going to fix that. Done. Okay. I'm going to unmute, but please listen to me, everybody. Can you try to be quiet? Can you hear me?
I can.
I need you all to be quiet. Somebody's making noise. I'm going to mute. I'm going to mute you guys, all right? I got noise coming in. Okay. I'm sorry. I had to mute you for a while because there's just some noise. So there it is. I have Trace. I have my chat out, guys. You want to talk to me? Call, send me a chat and tell me you'd like to talk to me, and I'll unmute you. I just muted you because there was too much noise. So I have 3 layers here. Check this out. I have my Trace layer, I have my Done layer, and I have my Start layer. I highly recommend that you do this. You create these 3 layers in the Layers palette. The Trace layer is where you're going to place your bitmap. The Done layer is where you're going to put the finalized work that you do. See, I've been working on this, so you can see I've got a little bit of my stuff going here. And then the Start layer is where you're going to draw, okay? And I locked both of these layers because there's artwork on those layers, and I don't want to mess with that artwork. So that's essentially how I did this. So now I'm going to backtrack a little bit, and I'm going to show you how I actually came in and started this project from scratch. So the first thing that I'm going to do is go to the File menu, and I'm going to create a new file. And I'm going to call this, just call it Trace, T-R-A-C-E, Trace, okay? What I would like you to do when you create your file is I would like you to call it Bill Sweeney Trace, or Victoria Walker Trace, or Ryan Rehart Trace. So in other words, I need to know who it is. I want your name on them. So your name and then Trace, okay? The size of this is right now is 8.5 by 11. I'm just going to go with this size because it's going to be perfectly fine. Matter of fact, you know what? I changed my mind. I'm going to make it a 4. Let's make it a 4 by 6. Okay, so I'm going to make it a 4 by 6 inch. I got it set to inches, and I'm going to set the orientation to landscape instead of portrait, which means essentially it's going to swap these numbers, making it 6 by 4. I don't need any bleed or any of that other stuff. Okay, what you might want to do is take a look in the advanced area here, and I got it set to color mode RGB. The raster effect, I might change the raster effect to 300 ppi. The reason I'm doing that is because then it gives me higher, it gives me a basic raster effect which is higher, and hit OK. So Ginger Cart thinks she has that lion on her mouse pad, and Ryan wants to do a dragon. I don't care if you do a dragon, and it's not a lion, Ginger, it's a tiger. Okay? And I'm only kidding with you. Okay, so this is the first thing that I do. I get my artboard set up, okay? Now I have my layers over here. Check this out. I got my layers over here. Oh, and by the way, like I said, if you want to speak, send me a chat saying, can I speak, and I will activate your mic. The only reason I shut it off is because there was a lot of noise. Okay, so I'm going to add a couple of layers here. Let me get this layers palette out because I don't like the positioning of it. There we go. Now I'm going to bring it back over here. Okay, so I got my initial layer. Remember what I told you I'm going to do. I'm going to call this layer Trace, T-R-A-C-E. And I'm going to create 2 more layers. So I do that by clicking once and twice. And now I have 3 layers. And I'm going to call this Done, D-O-N-E. And I'm going to call this Work, W-O-R-K. Now, do I have to name it exactly that way? No. Yeah, lion is a big cat, but the lions don't really have the stripes. The tigers have the stripes. The lions, I think, are just basically kind of a smooth color, although there are some that have crossbred, but generally they don't have stripes on them. And so those are the 3 layers. And right now there's nothing on any of those layers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the File menu. Now this assumes that you already went online and you have found yourself an image, or you have an image from someplace, wherever you get it. Maybe you took the picture yourself, and you're just going to basically place that image. So it's File, Place. Make sure that you're on the Trace layer. Okay? That's the layer you want to be on. So select it. It should look like that. File, Place, and I have my Bengal tiger image right there. And I'm going to hit Place. And boom, there he is. There's my tiger. Okay? Now I have that. I'm going to lock it. Now the reason I'm locking it is because I want to make sure that it doesn't get selected when I start working. By locking that layer basically, I can't do anything on that layer. I have to work either on this layer or that layer. And I am actually going to work on this layer for now. And when I get done with the pieces that I create, I'm going to move it down to this layer. So let me just quickly jump back to my Tiger Start. And you can see basically Trace, Done, and Start. And this layer is locked. And on that layer, okay, on that layer are these pieces that I've created. So what I'm going to do with this exercise tonight is I'm going to go to Trace, and I'm going to show you how I did those few little things. Because I think within just those few little things, there should be more than enough of me showing you how to do this that you should be able to do something similar to this by yourself. Okay, I'm going to be working with the following tools. I'm going to be working with the pen tool and some of the pen tools associated tools. And I'm also going to be working with a new tool called the blob tool. Have any of you heard of the blob tool? The blob tool is kind of a painting tool. It's something that I like quite a bit. And I'm going to be showing you how I work with the blob tool in this as well. Okay, so now I have my trace image there, and I have my 2 layers done, and you're going to do something similar. As I explained to you, this is going to be me drawing half of the face, and then I'm going to move the half the face over to mirror image the other side of the face. So what I want to do in order to make that easier for me is I want to put a guide down the middle of his face. So in order to put a guide down the middle of his face, I'm going to go up to the View menu, and I'm going to go Show Artboard. I'm sorry, Show Rulers. Okay, so now my rulers come up, and I'm not so concerned about the numbering system on my rulers because I'm not using it for measuring. I'm just using it for guide generation. You create your guides by rolling over top of your ruler and clicking down, holding with your mouse, and dragging out a guide. And you'll notice that I'm focusing here in the center of his face. This is the area that I'm particularly interested in. And as a matter of fact, right about there at the junction of, I was a little bit off on that. I didn't quite hit it right. So I'm going to go to View Menu Guides, and I'm going to unlock my guide for a second. And I'm going to reposition that a little bit better. It's giving me a little bit of trouble. That's what the problem is. Let me see if I zoom in, if I can't make that better. Okay, click on this thing, and let's see if I can move it just a bit over. I want it to be just about right there. That's good. Okay, now go to the View menu, Guide, and I'm going to lock that guide. I don't want that guide to move, so I've locked that guide. Okay, so I'm going to go View, Zoom Out, and I'm actually View, Zoom Out. I'm actually right about where I want to be with this. This is approximately where I want this cat's face to be. I can move it up a little bit and down a little bit by using these here, okay, or by dragging that. And now I've basically got this cat where I want it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by creating his nose. And then I'm going to create his mouth, and I'm going to create a little bit of the details in here. I'm going to create his eye for you. So you're going to see me use the tools that I use to create these things. And then after I create a couple of these tools, I'm going to give you the opportunity to ask me any questions about what it is that I'm doing, see whether you need my help on anything. And then I'm going to show you how to mirror the images on this thing, and we will pretty much be done with this. And this is something, as I say, something very similar to what you're going to do. Maybe not exactly the same. I don't know exactly what kind of image you're going to use, but the bottom line is it should be something similar to this. Okay? So I am going to come over here, and the first thing that I'm going to do is I got my tools. There's my pen tool. If you remember what I told you about the pen tool has several tools that are nested in with the pen tool. And if I click on it, you'll see that they pop up, and I got the pen tool, the add anchor point, the delete anchor point, and the convert anchor point. Now, I may not use all those tools, but it might be a good idea to have that nested tool palette open. And I do that by taking I'm holding my mouse down, I'm going to take my pointer, and I'm going to come over to this little tab on the end there. And you see it highlight dark. I'm going to let go, and it's going to tear that out. That's what it's called, actually, a tear out. So now I have my pen tools out, sitting in close proximity to where I'm going to work. Okay? And then the other thing is I'm going to use the blob tool, but the blob tool doesn't have any associated tools with it. So, I mean, it doesn't really give me the option of tearing it out. Okay? So I'm going to now start drawing my tiger's nose. The tiger's nose is going to be 2 parts. And I'm going to start off by doing the pink part first. And then there's sort of like a little stain around his nose here that I'm going to do next. So actually, I think what I'm going to do to make this even better for you is I'm going to zoom in a little closer. That's probably pretty good right there. Going to make sure I got the pen tool selected. And my goal is, I'll say this one more time, my goal is to draw half the nose and to use half the nose to create the entire nose. I do this because it works, and number two, because it's a tremendous time saver. So what I generally do when I do something like this is I kind of do a free-form motion on this. So I click to place my first point, then I move over a little bit and I click and I just drag the line, and then I come over and I click and I drag the line, and then I come over and click and I drag the line. What I'm doing is, you see how my line is coming out to be a really interesting kind of curving shaped line? That's what I'm looking for here, Control Z. That one I don't think I can do. I think I have to click on that one, and then I'm going to drag that over. There you go. That's the shape. So I either come over here and click. Now notice when that's the anchor point. Notice that when I roll over that anchor point, I get the Convert Anchor Point tool. Do you see that little V there? That's called the Convert Anchor Point tool. What that does essentially is it retracts. Watch this little control handle there. It retracts that control handle. It makes this a straight line segment that I then can drag and curve the way I want it to curve. So that's that action. Or I can come over here without retracting it and just click to place my next point. And oops, you know what? Somehow or other I got off that point. I don't know how that happened. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and click that point. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click that point. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click that, create that point. And you see how I'm beginning to create that nose? And I'm going to come over here and click that. And then come over here, click that. And come down to here. And then I'm going to come up a little bit. Okay, so there I've actually created the pink portion of that tiger's nose. Notice that I'm more or less sitting on the guide. So that is the point, that's the last point that I did. That is the very first point that I did. Notice the little circle when I sit on top of that point. That little circle is telling me that I'm about to close that shape. Okay? So what I'm going to do to make sure that this is straight, before I click that shape, I'm going to hold down the Shift key. The Shift key will create a very straight line from that point to that point, and I'm going to click that point. And now, watch this. I'm going to click that shape, and I'm going to move that shape over there. That right there is the shape that I just created on that part of the cat's nose. Okay? So let me bring it back to where it should be, right about there. And I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to click Default Fill and Stroke. So now I got a white fill and I got a black stroke. I'm going to remove the stroke for a minute, and now I just have a white section. And can you see how nicely that fits over that pink portion of the cat's nose? Can everybody see what I did there? And you see it looks pretty good because it's got a really interesting shape. It's very natural looking. That's the point when you do stuff like this, is you want to kind of try to make this look natural. The more natural, the better. Okay? So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to select that shape, and I want you to look at the layers palette, because the first thing that you're going to see is that this shape right now is on the work layer. And how I can tell it's on the work layer is right there. Do you see that green color? That green color is the same color as the highlighting on my path. Now watch that little square right there. That indicates selected art. That I can click on and drag to the done layer. Now watch what happens to my cat's nose. Can you see what happened? The color of the outline changes because it is no longer on the work layer, it's on the done layer. So I've basically moved that piece of finished art down to the done layer. Okay? So real simple, right? Does anybody got any questions about what I've done with this? Does it seem clear enough what I'm doing? I'm just using the pen tool. Anybody? We're good? Somebody let me know that you're hearing me. You're good. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to go back to the work layer. I'll go back to the work layer. And I'm going to deselect this. And as a matter of fact, in order to keep myself safe, I'm going to lock the done layer. This way, see, I can't touch and select that object either. So that object is essentially unavailable to me, and that's what I want. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at the next thing, which is this area around his nose, which kind of looks like, oh, I don't know, maybe it's a stain or something. Or maybe it's just moisture from its nose, okay? So anyway, I'm going to get the pen tool, and I'm going to come in here, and again, I'm going to start on my guide, click my point, and I'm going to come up, and I'm going to start drawing shapes. I'm going to come around, and I'm going to use this natural kind of dragging and letting the shape kind of do what it's going to do. I know it feels a little uncomfortable to do that, but believe me, this is not a bad strategy here. Notice what's happening. This is starting to fill in with white. Now, I don't want that. That's troublesome for me. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to make sure that my fill is forward, and I'm going to click on None. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the stroke, and I'm going to go and I'm going to apply from my color palette. Here's my color panel right here. I'm just going to click on black, and now I have a black line, okay? But here's the problem. The problem is that that black line is really big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to select that line, and you see where it says the stroke? That is the stroke weight. I have the selection tool selecting that little bit of line there, and you see where it says the stroke weight 1? I'm going to take it and I'm going to make it a stroke weight of 0.5, which is half of the size. And you see how I get a nice little stroke there? I like that very much. That makes it easier for me to see what's going on. Okay? So now what I got to do is, because I have basically disassociated the pen tool from that line, I have to reattach the pen tool to that line. In order to do that, it's very simple, really. I just click on the pen tool. And that's where I started. That's where I ended up. So in order to get going again, I'm just going to come over here, and I'm going to click on that point. Now I've attached this line back to that line, and I'm just going to continue coming along. And I don't really like that shape. I'm going to try to fix it. And I'm going to continue drawing my little shape here around the nose of this cat to create that mark that's there. And again, I don't know what it really is. It could be, you know, something like sweat or something that's on the cat's face. But I'm just going to keep working around here. This is going very well, actually. And I'm to the point where I'm back to my line. And I'm going to hold the Shift key again. And I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to click on my starting point. And now I have created that area around the nose. Not hard, right? Anybody see anything difficult about that? You guys fairly clear on how I did that? I just used the pen tool, and not a lot of tinkering with it. I just kind of worked around and created a very interesting odd shape. So here's what I want to do next. I want to take a look at what this shape is going to look like. So with it selected, I have a black stroke on it. And what I want to do is I want to swap the fill and the stroke. When I do that, I get a black fill and I get a stroke of none. And now, because it's on a higher layer, you can't see the other part of the nose. So I'm going to start off by clicking this. I've got it selected. I've unlocked the done layer. And notice that because it's selected, you can see the selected art indicator here. And I'm going to click, and I'm going to drag that down to the done layer. Now it's on the done layer because it's red. But you'll notice that it's sitting in front of the white part of the cat's nose. Very easy to fix this. All I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the object, and I'm going to go to Arrange, and I'm going to send it backwards. So in other words, I'm going to change the layer of the subgroup layers. Let me show you what they are. See that little arrowhead right there? If I click that arrowhead, you can see that there's a path there, and there's my original path. Now, I could even do that here if I want, although it's a little more tricky, by clicking on that path and dragging that path up in front of that path. You see what I did? And I just moved the subgroup layer up one, and now there is my tiger's nose. If I hide the trace, there is the two areas that I've created for my tiger's nose. What do you think, guys? Does this seem like terribly difficult to you? Does it seem like fun to anybody? Does it look like it might be fun to anybody? This is just the beginning. It is actually fun. And what's really fun is if you spend some time and you really work on this, you're going to find that you're going to come up with some really nice results that are going to impress you. Again, every time I do stuff like this, I get real excited because it's really incredibly fun to do, and it really does help a lot as far as becoming good with this program. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump up and show you how to do the eye, because the eye is quite interesting. We're going to come back to this in a little bit, but right now let me just jump up and show you the eye. We're going to do the eye. So there's the eye. He's got quite beautiful eyes. So what I'm going to do with this first is, once again, I have this fill black, and I don't want the fill black. I want the stroke black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the swap fill and stroke. And now I have no fill and I have a black stroke. See, all this stuff is really easy. It's right there for you. You just got to remember to do it when you're working. The reason that I'm setting this is because I'm going to use the pen tool again to recreate this eye. And to create this eye, I'm going to just draw around the eye to try to get a general shape of the eye. So let me start here. I'm going to click right about there. And then I'm going to come over to about here, and I'm going to click sort of like that. And then I'm going to come over to here, and I'm going to click sort of like that. And I might click on that right like that, and then click like this. And then I may come over here, and then I may come out like that. And then I may come back. Now notice something happened here that's a little bit frustrating for me. My default black and white stroke came back, and the line is too heavy for me. So once again, if that happens, you just select the object. Oh, and by the way, I'm actually making a big mistake here. I'm working on the done layer. You want to make sure you lock this layer, and you're working on the work layer for anything new that you do. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So here's what I did. I got the regular selection tool, and I've selected this, and I'm going to once again come up here and set it to 0.5. I want the line to be fine so I can see what I'm drawing. Okay, all right. Once again, because I did that, I get the pen tool, and I go not to the first point, although I could if I wanted to. I'm going to go to the last point, click on it to reattach it, and then I'm just going to continue working around, and I'm going to continue drawing my tiger's face. His eye. I'm going to come in here and keep drawing his eye, and then come in here and do something like this. Just going to try to follow what I think I'm seeing. Come back a little bit, come up a little bit, come down now, and out, and then over there. This is working out pretty good. And then up a bit more, and then in, and then finish. And there is the first part of my cat's eye. Okay? Now, the second part of the cat's eye is the pupil area of the eye. And I'm going to show you an interesting trick to make this pupil area of the eye perfect. You're going to really find this fascinating. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to move that down to the done layer. So now it's on the done layer, and again I'm going to lock the done layer. I'm going to click on the work layer. Get my pen, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start building my cat's pupil, which is something like this. Okay, and I'm going to come around to here and click to give this guy a nice pupil. And I'm going to come out like that a little bit. And then I'm going to come like this and like that. And there I've created a pupil for my cat's eye. Now, here's the thing. What I want to do is I want to get rid of this top piece of the pupil. I just want the bottom piece of the pupil, and I want it to just lock right in cleanly into this eye area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock the done layer because this part is on the done layer, and I'm going to shift select these. So now I got both of these selected. I'm going to go up to the window menu, and I'm going to come and find the Pathfinder palette. I might have talked to you about the Pathfinder palette. I don't know. I'm not sure. And thank you, Ginger, for telling me I'm on the wrong layer. You were right. So here's the deal. I have these two objects selected. The Pathfinder palette makes compound shapes out of these objects. I'm going to show you one right here. If I click on the Unite button, you see what it does? It takes both of those shapes and it turns it into one shape, which is not what I want. So I'm going to go Control-Z, which means Edit Undo. What I do want to do is I want to divide these up so I can get this piece, and I can throw away that top piece. I do that by coming over here. See where it says divide? That's the key to remember. You're dividing this image into sections. You're dividing. Divide. So with both of these selected, I'm going to click on Divide. Notice that they both turned green. That means that the divide command worked. Now, here's the thing. This is now a grouped object. It groups it automatically. Why? I don't know. It just does. So I'm going to go to the Object menu, and I'm going to ungroup this object. Now watch. I can click on that piece of the object, hit Delete, and look at that. I now have my tiger's eye, which I can fill, remove the stroke, and then I can take this and I can swap it, and look at that. I have created my tiger's eye. Isn't that incredible? Now I'm going to select both of these objects, and notice that they are both on the work layer. I'm going to drag them down to the lower layer. Okay? So now I have, if I close this off, I have this much of my tiger created so far. What do you guys think? Does this seem somewhat easy to you? Remember, I'm going to, in the end, start adding a little color into this. This is going to be kind of an orangey color. This is going to be a pinkish color. But now I'm just working in black and white. Okay, so I'm not quite done with the cat's eye just yet. So let me hide the eye, and let me show you what I'm going to do here to create my cat eye. This is very cool. So I'm going to come over and I'm going to get the ellipse tool, and I'm going to go up to the work layer, and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag out an ellipse, something like that. And if I want to move the ellipse, I'm going to hold down the space bar, and I'm going to move the ellipse to about where I want it, which is right about there. Okay? So there is my the center part of my remembering the whole Pathfinder thing. Well, yeah, but remember, Ginger, remember, this is being recorded. This is going to go up, and you're going to be able to go back and record it. Or if you need to, you can give me a call, and I can, talk you through it. Okay? So keep that in mind. All right. So I made this circle, which is going to end up being part of his eye. See how that's becoming part of his eye? Okay. All right. I'm going to go edit. I got this selected. This is that part of the pupil. I'm going to select that. Edit, copy. So I've copied it. Now I'm going to go to my done layer, and I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to hold down the shift key, click this, and click this. I got two pieces here. See what I got? Two pieces. What I want to do is I want to remove the top part of that eye. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make these things all fall right on the same point. So with both of these two objects selected, I'm going to hit divide again. And I've divided them. It's grouped, object, ungroup. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on the top part of that tiger's eye, hit delete. And now check this out. Why do you need to divide them? The reason I'm dividing them is so that I can remove the top part of the eye, which doesn't work within the real eye. Look at my eye. Can you see how my eye works now? You see it? If I didn't divide those two shapes, what it did was it divided this circle right along the line of that white area of the eye. So basically what I'm doing is I'm using the program to create beautiful shapes for me by just using some of the little tools and commands that are essential to this program. That's what I want you to learn how to do. If you take a look at my tiger, the shapes are very interesting because I'm using tools that play off the lines. That's the whole point, okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Great. Okay, so we now have an eye more or less done, and we have a nose done. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you another tool. I'm going to show you now how to work with the, because I think you guys get the general idea of how to work with the pen tool. Is that a fair thing to say, that you kind of know what to do with the pen tool? By the way, I'm switching this back to stroke. So you guys feel relatively comfortable with the pen tool? If you have any questions about the pen tool right now, feel free to throw them at me, and I'll ask you, or I'll answer your questions. Are you guys good with what I've shown you so far with the pen tool? Are we good? All right. So the next tool that I want to show you here is the blob brush tool. The blob brush tool is good. It gives you the ability to paint. Now, I'm going to actually have to put a fill in this, because this is, let me cancel this. This is actually essentially a paintbrush tool. So you see, I got it. Actually, it's working. Edit, undo. Yeah. All right. So I'm in good shape, but I have to set the blob. I have to set the blob tool size. So I'm going to set the fidelity of this down to 3, the smoothness to 0. I'm going to set the size down to like, oh, I don't know, 2, and the angle. Now notice in here, watch this. The angle. I'm going to change the angle, and I'm going to adjust around this. Okay, and actually, yeah, I think that's probably pretty good. I want that about like that, because I'm going to start drawing a few of these shapes here. All right, so that's it, and I see if I can make this thing okay for now. And there we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, watch this. I'm going to zoom in, because I want you to see how this works. So I'm going to zoom in. That's probably a little bit too much. Go zoom out. Oh, and by the way, take a look. Can you see what a bitmap? Can you see what a bitmap really looks like here? How do I know how to set what? The settings for the blob brush, Carla? Is that what you're asking me? Yes. Most of all these tools have settings. The blob brush has settings because I can make this blob brush a different size. I can change the angle on it, okay? And I can change it from being a round, see, to a very thin brush, because it is a brush. So you can pretty much do what you want to do with this, see? Now I'm going to make this thing a little smaller. So that's it. I just happen to know that the settings are there. See, now I made that a huge size, which is not what I want. I also can reduce the size of this on the fly by, if you go to your keyboard, there are 2 fancy brackets. Do you see the fancy brackets on your keyboard right by the letter P? There's 2 fancy brackets. You see them? Yeah. I can use the left-hand one to make this brush smaller, or the right-hand one to make the brush bigger. So I can change the size of this brush. Then I can come in here and I can start painting with this brush. This is what I really like about this, is because I can kind of paint with this. Now, I'm actually painting a fill. That's what I want you to understand. This is a fill I'm painting. I'm not painting a stroke. I'm painting a fill. So I can just come in here and I can paint and paint and paint and get exactly the shape that I want and make it as fancy as I want. And you can see I'm making this kind of fancy. Then I can come in here and I can just kind of fill it in. And I end up with a painted blob. So I'm going to do a few of these just so that you can see how this works. You got to make sure that you fill it all in, because you're creating a shape. Okay, so now watch this. I think I got it all the way filled in. Watch when I click on the selection tool and I click on this. Can you see what it is? Can you see what it created? I mean, this is like super deluxe, guys. I mean, I just created I didn't create any kind of I created a filled shape. So I can go in here now and I can select any area that I want to draw using this technique of the blob brush, and I can come in and I can draw with that blob brush, and I can get whatever kind of shape I want. And if I want to change the angle on the brush, I just come in and double click on it, and I change the angle. I'm going to change the angle. Whoops, I don't want the size change. I want to change the angle. That's what I want. Hit OK. I've just changed the angle on this, and now I'm going in the other direction, the other angle. I don't know whether that angle works very well for me here. I guess I could probably struggle with it, although I think the other angle works better for what I'm trying to do here. But, you know, it doesn't really matter. You're watching me demonstrate this, and I think you're getting the idea of how this works. That's the important thing. So I'm going to create this area under its eye right there. And maybe what I'll do is I'll come over here and I'll just create a few of these little blobs. I'm going to just build a few of these little blobs. Now, I want to build enough of them that I can then come back in later. I don't like this angle at all. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on this again, and I'm going to take it back in the other direction because I like that angle a lot better. It's just more comfortable for me. Okay, and I'm just going to create a few of these little shapes, okay? And, you know, they can be irregular. Oh, I want to come down and show you something by the nose. There's a few areas. Let me go View, Fit Artboard and Window. And let me come over by his nose here. There we go. And we got a couple of little shapes by his nose that I'm going to draw. There's a little bit of an area here, and then a little area here. And this is more or less how I come in and draw these shapes. View, Fit, Artboard, and Window. And you can see already I'm beginning to build the shapes. I'm going to try this one, come in a little closer, and I'm going to draw a little bit of these shapes over here. What I'm doing basically is I'm drawing just enough of this face. The demonstration is just enough of this face so that you can see me go to the next step, which is to mirror this. If I don't have enough of this drawn, it's not going to make a lot of sense. But if I do a little bit of this drawing, it'll make a lot more sense when I mirror it. So I just ask you to be a bit patient with me while I do this. And I'm just going to throw a little bit of this together real quickly. And again, I'm not really concentrating on making this like super beautiful. I'm kind of doing it haphazardly. If I were doing this seriously, I would be spending more time with this and doing a lot better job. But this is just a demonstration, and I'm trying to get enough of it done so that when you see what I do with this, it'll make some sense. So I'm going to keep building these shapes. Just going to find the ones that are easy to do and around the eye. I think that's probably the best way to go for now. And then I'm just going to keep drawing these shapes. And remember that you have to fill them in after you get them drawn. If they're a big one like I'm building here is a pretty big one, you're going to come in and you're going to fill this thing. So you're going to just keep filling this thing up. You got to become somewhat careful with it. And you got to make sure that there's no holidays. There's no spots inside there that are not filled. And you're just going to keep filling it. And you can keep working with this. You can keep building this. It's you know, as you draw within this, it'll continue filling in and it'll be one piece because it's doing what the brush does. It's building a blob. That's exactly why they call it a blob brush. And the blob brush is essentially a solid shape, a vector shape. And we're almost done with that. Let's see if I am. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little bit more over here. Let me come down a bit. I think what I'll do is I'm going to do this area, and then I think I'll have enough that I can show you the mirroring and how the mirroring works. Okay? So I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to, you know, do this shape here. And as I say, just please understand, I'm really not spending a great deal of time with this. If I were to do this seriously, I think you would understand that I do this a lot more carefully, and I'm just not. I'm doing it quickly, okay, and I might even come in and connect that if I wanted to, and come down here, and I'm just going to build and build and build and create my shape and bring it up, and then I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to, you know, build my shape, keep going, keep going, keep going, and then I have to fill it. Okay, and if I wanted to, I can come in here and change my blob. The reason I'm going to change the blob is so that you can see around this. I'm going to make this go round, and I'm going to use that because then I can fill it easier. See? So I'm just going to fill it now easier with it. The reason I changed it to round is because it fills quicker, but I also want to get you kind of familiar with that panel and how to work with it. I don't want you to go away and then be, well, how did he do that with that panel, you know? So I want you to see me play with the panel a little tiny bit so that you're not so uncomfortable with the panel. Is everybody hearing me okay? Am I coming across okay? Are you hearing me well? Great. Okay, so let me go down and let me do a couple more things. I may do the mouth. I'm going to do a little bit in here, and I'm going to try to stay with this round one for a little while, see what kind of effect I get with that, because that's kind of interesting as well. I think I might. Oh, and here's another thing. Remember, you got that left arrow and right arrow key. You can make it smaller if you want, or you can make it bigger. See, and this actually doesn't work too bad either. It gives you a different look. This round brush gives you a different look. So some of this could be with the round, and some of them could be with an angled. It's kind of up to you and what you're looking for. And I'm trying both here to see what I get. I mean, again, I'm just playing with this right now. This is not, you know, this is not for the gold, so to speak. This is just kind of like to do it so that you can see me put together some of these shapes and you can see how I mirror this. Okay, so I'm just going to go a little bit more here, there, maybe a little bit here, and a little bit here, and I'll maybe just do this one little blob right there. I just want to make sure I got enough that it makes sense when I go to do the actual. It's pretty good. Okay, and one more thing that I think I'm going to do is come down here and do its mouth. I'll try to do a mouth down here for you. Let me get over here and let me get the mouth in frame, and I'll see if I can put together a mouth here. All right, so I'll go back to the blob brush panel again, and I'm going to make it once more a thin brush like this, and I'm going to probably change the angle a little bit like that, and I'm going to make the size as small as I can make it and hit OK. And just a little bit beneath this, I don't want to connect it, I'm going to come in and I'm going to start drawing the mouth area. The mouth area is tricky, so I'm going to just come down. I'm going to draw the mouth area. And I'm just going to draw it kind of like a mouth. All right, and then I'm going to come up here and I'm just going to make sure that the mouth goes up, like about like that. And then I'm going to fill it. And that will probably, I might change the angle on this to like that so that I can maybe do something over here. See, and that kind of helps finish it off a little bit, right? Can you see what I'm trying to do? I'm not just crazy. See how that makes a nice sort of look for the mouth? Okay, let's take a look. View, fit artboard in window. Where are we at? All right, and I'm going to, for a second, hide. See what's starting to happen? Watch this. This is something that also you might find helpful. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to place another layer. And I'm going to call this layer color. Color. Okay, so what I want to do on the color layer is I want to put a rectangle and just big enough to cover the area that I'm working on. And I'm going to change its fill, and I'm going to make the fill maybe an orange color, because that's kind of like the color the tiger is going to end up being. Hit OK. And now I have this color. And I'm going to show you what my artwork looks like so far against color. And the question is, why wouldn't you use the pen tool to on the mouth? You could. I basically did the pen tool on the nose and the eyes, and I'm an instructor and I'm trying to show you another tool. So I basically chose to use the blob tool because I wanted you to see me work a little bit with the blob tool so that you would know a little bit about it. If I just spent all night on the pen tool, I wouldn't be doing you much of a good service, right? Can you see my point at all? So that's really what it is. I think that these two tools are probably the tools that you're going to want to use for this particular project. So I wanted to make sure that I had a good opportunity to show you a little bit about the blob tool. So now that I've done this, can you see what's starting to happen? Can you see the face starting to come together, how it's beginning to look like a tiger? I know it's got a long way to go, but can you see it's beginning to look like a really nice tiger? And this is what I'm going to want you to do, to try to come up with something like this. And again, it's in the end, I think you're going to find it's a lot easier than you think it is. Don't forget, I'm here. I'm always there. You can call me if you have a problem, and I can answer your question. And even if I have to, I'll bring you into a private session, and I'll work through it a little bit with you. Okay, so everybody sort of understands up to this point what we've done. Any questions about any of this so far? We good? All right, now on to the next thing. I'm going to lock the color layer. I have my done layer, and I don't have a lot on my done layer. Wait a minute. How did you name the layers? Okay, watch. Here's my layer. See the color layer right there? I'm on the color layer. I'm going to double click that layer, and you see how the box goes with a yellow outline, or that orange outline, and it highlights? I can change it. I'm going to change it to orange, O-R-A-N-G-E, and deselect it, and I've changed the layer. That's it. Now, you don't have to change the layer. A lot of times graphic designers don't do this, but remember, I'm an instructor, and my job here is to try to show you things and try to make things make sense to you. So I try to do a little bit more and explain a little bit more than I would ever do if I was actually just sitting here drawing this on my own. If I was doing this on my own, I wouldn't be doing half of this stuff. I'd just be drawing it. I'd throw my layers up there. I'd be moving stuff from layer to layer, and I wouldn't care. But if I did that in front of you, it would make it all the more difficult for you to figure out, and even more difficult when you go back to look at this video again, to watch it, to see what I'm doing. By explaining all this to you, hopefully it'll help. Now for the fun part. Let's pretend for a minute that I have created my entire tiger's face. Okay, so all of this stuff here on this side has been done. I know it hasn't. I know only got a little bit going, but there's enough that I think you can get the idea. So now what am I going to do? I'm going to start mirroring this. This is where it gets fun. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I got artwork on that layer, and I got artwork on this layer. So what I want to do, I think, is I want to get them all the artwork on one layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Target, and notice that all of this stuff highlights. The reason it's highlighting is because I targeted the art that's on the layer. That's what that symbol does. When you click on that, watch when I click on the one below. That now selects the art on that layer. So I want to select the art on this layer, and now I don't want to select one thing on that layer. Watch. There I selected one thing on that layer, and I get that one item selected. I want to select everything on that layer. That's what this button does. You click on that, and you select all the art on that layer. And I'm going to click that little indicate selected art icon, and I'm going to drag that down to this layer, and now everything is on this layer. Okay? This is where it gets cool. I am about to duplicate all this stuff. I do that by using this tool right here, the Reflect tool. See it? The Reflect tool. I'm going to click on the Reflect tool, and yeah, here we go. And I'm going to get my Reflect tool pop-up. This is my Reflect tool pop-up. I'm going to remove the preview for a second because I want to explain this a little bit. So there is the Reflect tool. This is the Reflect tool panel. A minute ago I said, why do I go into the Blob tool, and where did the settings come from? Like I was explaining to you, most of these tools have panels that work and that open up and you can do things with. Take a look at the axis. We have the horizontal and the vertical axis. If I click the horizontal axis and hit preview, you see how it flipped the tiger's face upside down? That's not what I want. I want it along the vertical axis. And now it's made it mirrored image of it. Okay, if I hit the preview and remove it, it puts it back. So do you understand what this is doing? This is the angle. It's set to 90 degrees. So it's gonna mirror that image 90 degrees along the vertical axis. That's essentially what that part of this palette is telling you. If I hit preview, it's showing me what that mirror is going to look like. Okay? but it's doing it on the original, and I don't want to do it on the original. I want to create a new one. That's why this button right there is there. See where it says copy? So let me explain to you what this is about to do. This is going to reflect my art along the vertical axis 90 degrees, and it is going to copy it. So you'll see in a second. Watch now when I hit copy. You see how it made a duplicate? Now without deselecting this, I want to hold down the shift key and I want to use the right arrow to bring it over, and I'm going to bring it over to there. Then I'm going to zoom in. And I'm not going to use the shift key, but I'm going to slowly bring this in until these overlap right there. Now, can you see already? I'm going to go view, zoom out. Can you see already how my tiger is coming together? Can you see now it's beginning to really look like a tiger? What do you guys think? All right. Now, there's a couple of things that I want to show you here. First of all, I have this nose, and this nose is in two pieces. And I have this part of the nose, and it's in two pieces. And I have the mouth, and it's in two pieces. So I want to turn those two pieces into one. I want to turn these two sections of the nose into one piece, and these two sections into one piece. So in order to do that, once again, I got to go to the View menu, and I got to, or I'm sorry, Window menu, and I got to go to Pathfinder, bring the Pathfinder out. And last time I used the Divide command to make the eye do that. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that part of the mouth, and I'm going to shift click on that part of the mouth. So now I have both part of the mouth selected, and I'm going to use this one right here, the Unite. And what that does is it turns that into one piece. I'm going to do the same thing with that piece of the nose. Hold down the Shift key, click on that, click on Unite, and now that is one piece. Click on this, and hold down the Shift and click on that, and hit Unite, and that is one piece. So now I have that, which is one piece of nose, that is one piece of nose, that is one piece of nose. Okay? This is more or less how I built my my tiger. Now, it is a lot of work. It takes some time, but you know what? We haven't been at this for an hour, and I've got this much done. Now, of course, I've been doing this for 10 years or better. So, you know, it's going to be a little more difficult for you, but I just want you to realize that you can do this. You will do this. And the more you do this, the better you will get at doing this. So any questions at all about this? Is there anything you need to know beyond this? Because I'm pretty much done with this part of my exercise. I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to hide my color. So you can now see how I have the ability to make this tiger, if I just continue working with it, a pretty good representation of this tiger. And here again, I'll go back to my tiger final, and you can pretty much see what my tiger final can look like if I spend enough time and energy to make it look the way I want it to look. Okay? So that's the lesson. That's the exercise that you're going to do. I don't know that you need much more than that to do this assignment. I would say probably the pen tool and the blob tool are going to work very well for you. I would recommend working with that first and foremost. And again, what I'm concerned about is not that you make a beautiful tiger like my tiger is. I'm looking for you to spend the time to do this exercise and show me that you're making an effort to learn these tools and to become proficient with them. Okay? Anybody got any questions about this or anything you need to say to me? Are we good? I do have 3 more things that I want to show you, and then I'm going to talk to you about text a little bit. So, we good? All right. I want to show you 3 more pieces of art that I did, more or less along the lines of the project that you are working on tonight. The first one I'm going to show you is a pumpkin. This is my pumpkin. I created this pumpkin using a photograph of a pumpkin. And the only thing that the photograph of the pumpkin did not have was the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. So I found a picture of a pumpkin, and it was a bitmap, just like we are going to work on with your project. And I literally used that bitmap to trace the pumpkin out, and I created gradients that I used to color the pumpkin. Then what I did was I literally just built these eyes and nose and mouth. I just built them, knowing that I wanted the mouth to be a little bit on the thick side and to have kind of a glowing interior as though there was a candle in it. So this part, the eyes, nose, and mouth, didn't exist. I created them. But the rest of this came from me tracing a bitmap of a pumpkin. And again, you know, it works. It's something that I use. I use it quite frequently. I do believe that you are going to use something like this quite frequently. So I want to show you some of the different applications of it. So that's my pumpkin. Now, you all are familiar with the Wizard of Oz. So here is my Wizard of Oz. And I actually created the entire Tin Man and the Witch from the Wizard of Oz using a tracing layer. Now this I have that I'd like to show you. I'm going to hide all this. Let's see here. I got my Tin Man. Yeah, let me hide my Witch first. There he is. And let me come up here and close my Tin Man and hide my Tin Man. So I've hidden everything now. I want to show you my trace. There is my trace. So take a look. This is, no, I didn't use 3D on any part of this, Ginger. This is not 3D. This is just basic. See what you got right here? This is the image that I traced my Tin Man from. I made him from this picture right there. I want to show you something. I want to show you something. And this is really what I want you to take away from this. I love the Tin Man. I think he's a great character. I always wanted to do a drawing of him, and I did. Take a look at what his face looks like in the bitmap. Look at it. Okay? I mean, it's almost not there. I mean, I more or less had to invent everything that was there because you can barely see any detail on it, right? Can you see my point? There's no detail there. It's kind of just all blurred out and nothing too specific. Yeah, you can see that there's a seam here and there's a couple of rivets there, and you know, you kind of get a sense that the nose comes out to a point. You don't know what the lips are really doing. The eyes are pretty clear, okay? But it's very, very vague. So in order for me to come up with this, it took a lot of work. And that's what I want to show you. So I'm going to go View, Fit Artboard and Window. I'm going to hide this layer. I'm going to bring the Tin Man layer up, and I just want to zoom in around his face. Take a look at his face. Look at the details on his face. And I mean, I'm not the best 3D Adobe Illustrator. I'm not the best illustrator that there is in the world. But you can see, oh, this phone. You can see, though, that you can get a pretty good result from this by spending a little bit of time and a little bit of effort on this. So basically, that is my my Tin Man. And, you know, I used a lot of gradients on this. You can see as you go down, his whole body is rendered. I rendered his entire body. I had to create that all basically just from my imagination and a little bit of details. Let me go zoom out. Zoom out. There we go. And you can pretty much see all the way down, I more or less built him based on what I was able to dream up and what I was able to kind of see within the image that I had to work with. So there is my and the Wicked Witch of the West. I don't have her original image, but she had an image very similar to this. I remember this particular image of her from the Wizard of Oz, where they were in the, I guess they were in the tower, and Dorothy was crying for her mother, and she popped up in this globe, and I just thought it was a great image. So I put the two of them together. The other one I want to show you is the mini pod. This one I also created. So you can pretty much do this with any kind of a product that you want. And I'll be honest with you, the detail that you get and the realism that you get is pretty good. You can do pretty good with these particular things. So that is my demonstration of working with bitmaps. Every one of these that I showed you, the pumpkin, the Oz characters, and the mini pod, every one of these was done off of an object, a tracing object. So again, that's the point of this, is that this week you're going to be working on a tracing object. And I, number one, wanted to show you a few things that you could do to create something using a tracing object. And I also wanted to give you an idea of some of the tools that will probably work for you. Obviously, when you're working with this guy right here, I'm using basically my basic shape tools. I used almost all basic shape tools on this, although I did use the pen tool to create some lines and stuff, and I used some type and different things. But this was mostly basic shapes. This guy here, the Oz characters, mostly the pen tool with some small basic shapes, not much, mostly the pen tool to draw this. The pumpkin, mostly the pen tool. So, you know, again, you ultimately will decide what tools work best for you. My goal here is to little by little expose you to some of the tools little at a time and give you the opportunity to work with them. If you have problems, I'm here for you, that you can call and say, you know, Bill, I was working with this tool, such and such a thing happened, and I can say, well, maybe it happened for this reason or that reason. Okay, so that's really the whole point of this. There are a lot of tools in here. We are not going to get to every one of them in this mod. Focus on the tools that you need to learn for this mod. Be happy to learn those tools, because number one, if you learn those tools, you've learned a lot. Number two, you're going to find that a lot of these tools operate in similar ways, because this is a vector program doing all the same kind of thing, creating vector objects. So a lot of these tools will ultimately either act on things that you've created or help you to create vector shapes. And that's what this program is all about, creating vector shapes. I'm done with that part of this whole thing, so I guess my question to you is right now, can we, hold on a minute here, can we replay last week? I need to do the robot like the tool when you want me to do a little bit of the robot tonight? Does anybody else want me to do a little bit of the robot tonight? Is that okay from you guys? Carla, it's okay with you. Ryan is okay. Yeah? All right, I will go in and I'll file open, and I will go up to week 1 and open. Before I do that, though, I'll tell you what, before I do that, let me find my robot draw, robot final. There we go, open. Okay, so there's, ignore. Okay, so there's my robot. Okay, but before I do that, let me close this. Save changes, no. Let me close that. No. No. And looking for my type. I wanna do something real quick before I get into this. There we go. There's the type. Okay. All right. Type. You guys, before I do anything else, I'm going to go to my window artboard. Artboard. Okay. I'm going to create a new artboard. Okay. And I'm going to double click on it. Okay, get that out of here. All right. Do you just use the mouse or do you use a graphic? I just use a mouse. I'm too cheap to buy one. I actually learned when I was starting learning Illustrator, I learned with a mouse. So I never bought a graphic tablet because I'm a cheapskate. And one of these days, maybe when my ship comes in, I will perhaps buy one and I'll start playing it. But remember something, just like a mouse. When you get a graphic tablet, you have to learn the graphic tablet. It's going to take a month or so to get to where you really get proficient with the graphic tablet. I spent months learning how to work with my mouse. And so I'm very comfortable with my mouse, and that's why I don't really buy a graphic tablet, because I don't have an actual need for it. If I had access to one, I might feel differently. Okay, so listen, I'm going to spend a few minutes with you. You guys are going to do an assessment this week. The assessment is on type. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to get you some sense of, if you guys got pen and paper handy, if you don't, get pen and paper handy, because we're going to talk a little bit about type. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on some of the things that are going to be in this assessment. So it's very important for you to take some notes so that you can go in and perhaps pass this assessment. Okay? Everybody ready to go? Are you guys hearing me okay? Okay. All right. So the first thing, I'm going to get the type tool. Now watch this. I'm going to select the type tool and I'm going to click on the tear off and I'm going to bring out the type tools. I want you to very carefully note the tools. The first tool is the type tool. The type tool. You got that? The next one is the area type tool. The next one is the type on a path tool. The next one is the vertical type tool. The next one is the vertical area type tool. The next one is the vertical type tool on a path. So you will probably not use a lot of these tools. I never use this one, the vertical type. I never use the vertical area type, and I never use the vertical type on the path tool. I just never use them. They just never come up in anything I have to design. However, I do use the type tool, the area type tool, and the type on a path tool frequently. Okay? The reason that I'm pointing this out specifically to you, your question number 1 in your assessment is, what are the 3 methods for creating type in Illustrator? And then it gives you 4 different choices. And what you have to do is you have to look at those 4 different choices and pick out the choice that correctly names some of those tools there. I'm not going to give you the answer. I'm going to give you the question, and I'm going to give you a general idea of what the question is going to be so that you can kind of put together some modus operandi for attacking this assessment. Does that make sense to you guys? The question is, what are the 3 methods for creating type in Illustrator? And then it gives you 4 choices. One of those 4 choices correctly names 3 or 4 of those tools. The other 3 choices do not correctly name them. So you need to know the names of those tools to answer this question. You got that?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, on to the next one. There are 2 ways. There are 2 ways to type within a defined area in Illustrator. All right, and then what it asks you is, you create a shape and use what tool to convert the shape into a container for text? Okay, now let me show you what you do to do that. Click on the type tool, the regular old type tool here, and I have to open up a layer. Oh boy, let me see, where are my layers? Why is my layer locked? Let me open them up all. Okay, that's good. All right, so I'm click on the type tool. What's wrong with this? This is locked. What's the problem with this thing? All right, file new. Hold on. New. And hit OK. Okay, there we go. Okay, now watch this. The question is, there are 2 ways to create type within a defined area in Illustrator. Okay, this is version number 1. See the type tool right here? I click the type tool. I click, hold, and drag to create a shape. And then I type TYPEINTHEBOX. Type in the box. So that's one way to create type in a defined area. You understand that? The type tool, click and drag, you've defined an area, you type in it. That's one way to do it. Okay? Everybody got that? This is one of the questions. So do you understand this? Okay. The second way, take your rectangle tool. click and hold and drag to create a rectangle. I've created a rectangle, okay? I come up here and I click on the area type tool. I come over here and I click and it converts the shape into a text. Text in the box. Get it? So that's the two ways that you do it. You click and drag to create a text box that way, or you create a shape and you click, and now you have a text box. That's how you do it. Okay, can you do it with any of the other shapes? Yes, but I'm trying to keep this simple. This is for your exam. So you need to know when they ask you this question how to answer it. Now remember, you're going to be getting choices here. You're going to have to look at the choices and see if you pick the right choices. I'm telling you what they are. The choices are you click and drag a box with the type tool, or you click to create a box. Click on the area type tool, and you click the box, and that's how you create your type. Okay? So do you guys understand that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Now the next one is this. I'm going to click and I'm going to create some type. T, Y, P, E. Okay, I'm going to make it bigger. Let me make it a little bit bigger for our purposes. 36 points. Okay. Now, let's go in and let's go to the next question, which is something converts text to a standard vector object, changing the underlying path structure and shape of each letter to an editable shape. Does anybody here know what you do that? Can anybody tell me? From Ryan. Ryan wants to I'm going to unmute all. Are you guys being quiet? Oops. No. Unmute all. There we go. Okay, so now everybody's unmuted.
Can you say that again?
Okay. The question is, something converts text to a standard vector object, changing the underlying path structure and shape of the header to editable paths. Does anybody know how to do that? There is your type. You see the little line right there? That little line indicates that this is type. If I click on that, line, I can put more type more. See? That's what that enables me to do. So the question is, how do I turn this into graphic shapes? The answer is you go up to the type menu and you click on create outlines. So it is type create outlines, and watch when I do that. You see what it did? It converted these things into vector shapes. This is no longer editable type. They're vector shapes. Is that clear? Do you understand what I'm suggesting here? Yep. Okay. All right. Now the next thing is I'm going to go edit undo. Okay, because I need this type here to show you this. So the next thing is there's character spacing that adjusts the distance between lines of type. So I need to create more lines of type. Watch this. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to go edit copy. Copy, and I'm going to click on enter and control V, enter, control V. I now have 3 lines of type, okay? And I'm going to select all of it, and I'm going to go to the window menu, and I'll open up type, and I'm going to go to character. There's your character palette. So it's window, type, character. There's your character palette. This is called leading. So the question is, something is the distance of space between lines of type. Leading is the distance between lines of type. Watch when I click these buttons. You see the leading? Can you see the type going further and further apart, the lines of type? You see what I'm talking again?
You mute it again. There's too much background noise.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna mute everybody. All right. So I have these lines of type selected, and I'm clicking the down or the down arrow, and I'm making them tighter. That is removing space between the lines of type, removing leading. That's what that's called, leading. So I'm going to change it from 37 to 38, 39, 40. Can you see the lines of type spreading out? That is adjusting the leading. Okay, so that's the first thing. You need to know what leading is. Now the next thing is this is called the uniform space between individual words or letters. And what that is known as is, this is called tracking. No, I'm sorry, this is called kerning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding kerning in here. And can you see what it's doing? It's adding space between letters, the M and the O. Can you see the space going in? I'm making the space greater between the M and the O. Right there, it's called kerning. So do you got that? Kerning. So the first one is leading. The second one is kerning. Now, then there's tracking. I'm going to come in here, put that back to 0. Tracking is this, where you take your letters and you come over here to tracking and you click, and I'm going to set this to 100. I should set it to 200. You can see it better. You get 200. Okay, tracking is where you take all the letters and you open the space up on all of them. So the distance of space between lines of type is known as leading. This uniform space between individual words and letters, that's called, right here, kerning. And the subtle form of character spacing that adjusts space around certain types of letters. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I got them backwards. The uniform space is actually this, tracking. And the subtle form of character spacing that adjusts, that is called kerning. All right? So this here, what I just did here, that is called tracking. And this, where I put space between these letters, that is called kerning. So you got that? It's leading, kerning, and then this is tracking. That's tracking. Okay? Now the last thing is I have this text selected here. You see where it says Myriad Pro? If I wanted to see all the characters that exist in that font called Myriad Pro, I go up to the window menu, I go to type, and I find glyphs. And I open up the glyphs palette, and in the glyphs palette, you'll see all of the characters that are available in that font. So a way to see all the characters available in the font is to open up the glyphs panel. That is your exam. Okay? Now it is 8:49. Do you guys have, I mean, we have like about 10 minutes, 50 to 60, yeah, about 10 minutes. 10 minutes to take a look at the robot. So are you okay? It is kind of confusing. I answered it backwards on my test. Okay, so if I can reset it for you, I'll try to reset it, Victoria. You can send me an email, ask me to. Although I did try to reset something for somebody, and it didn't seem to want to do it. So I can't promise you I'll reset it, but I will try to reset it. But at any rate, I have 10 minutes to show you a little bit about my robot. So I assume everybody's basically okay on this. And let me get this out of here. Okay. All right. So now I got rid of everything. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of this. Let me get my robot over here. Okay. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you a couple of things on the robot. Okay. So I have my master art. Again, I have my master art here selected. Or I mean, I have a master art on a master layer, and I have it grayed out. I have my work layer and my save layer. I'm going to draw just 3 or 4 things because I don't have a lot of time. I'm going to just come up and look at the face real quick. So let me show you how I would do this. Here's my basic shapes tool. This particular exercise is all about basic shapes. I mean, this whole exercise really has to do with just learning some of the basic shapes in a creative way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first show you that there's a rectangle tool, there's a rounded rectangle tool, an oval tool or an ellipse tool, a polygon tool, a star tool. Those are the primary tools. This here is called a flare tool, but it has nothing to do with what we're doing here. So basically, we're going to use these three tools here. We don't really get to this very much, and we don't really get to the star very much. This face has a rounded rectangle on it. So I'm going to click on the rounded rectangle tool, and I'm going to click over here in the corner, and I'm going to click hold, and I'm going to drag to create a rounded rectangle to cover the area of his face. Now you can see that my curves are not right. If you keep your mouse held down, the up arrow key and the down arrow key gives you the ability to change the ratio or the radius of your corners. And there I just created that proper radius by using the down arrow. And you can see you have these extra points on here. So I'm going to hit delete, and I'm going to click on this again, and I'm going to drag, and I'm going to drag out my rounded rectangle. I'm going to hit the up arrow, and you see what it's doing? The up arrow is making the corner radiuses greater. The down arrow will make the corner radiuses smaller until it fits the way I want it, which is about like that. So that's basically all you have to do. And right now this has a fill of white and a stroke of black. I'm going to remove the fill of white, and I'm just going to leave the stroke of black. Now let me just say this to you. I'm not looking for you to color this in. I'm looking for you to do this exercise using these tools to show me that you have some mastery of these tools. So that's all you got to do to create his face. I'm going to show you how to create his eye. His eye is kind of interesting. I'm going to come over here, click, and I'm going to drag out a circle, hold the shift key down to make that circle. All right. So anyway, I'm going to click and hold down the space bar, and when I click and hold down the space bar, I can move that circle. And there is the circle for the first part of my eye. Now, I don't want to come in and make another circle, so I'm going to go and I'm going to click on the regular selection tool. I'm going to go Edit Copy. Now this is selected, so it's going to copy it. Edit Paste in Front, and then I'm going to use the Free Transform tool. Hold down the Shift key and the Alt key, and I'm going to bring this thing down and make it smaller, and I'm going to bring it into about there. And then I'm going to go Edit Copy, Edit Paste in Front, and once again I'm going to hold down the Shift and the Alt key. And look what I just did. I just created 3 separate circles for my eye. Really simple, by just basically creating one shape and then copying it and adjusting the size using the Free Transform tool, and then copying it again, paste it, and I have an eye. I select all 3 of my eyes. I can go Object Group, and then I can just hold down the Alt key, and I can drag, and now I've created both of my eyes. So you see how easy this is? I mean, if you know a little bit about what you're doing, this can be a very easy thing for you to do. Now I got 3 more things that I want to do, and then we'll call it a night. I want to show you a really cool way to make this mouth. So once again, I'm going to go back to the rounded rectangle tool, and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag out a rounded rectangle, but I don't like the corner radius on this either. So once again, I'm going to use the down arrow, and I'm going to make my rounded rectangle a little bit different. That's probably a good rounded rectangle for this. So there's my mouth rounded rectangle. All right, now I want to make those lines for the teeth. This I think you're going to love. I'm going to get my line segment tool. That's another tool that you're probably going to use a little bit of right here, the line segment tool. And I'm going to click and drag, holding down the Shift key to create a line segment just like that. So now I have one little line segment right there. Okay, no problem with that, right? Real simple. I'm going to go Edit Copy, Edit Paste in Front. So I've actually copied and pasted in front that line segment, and I'm going to move it over to where I want the end of my tooth to be. So now I have my last tooth and my first tooth, and I need 1, 2, 3, 4 more sections for my teeth. Okay? Let me show you an incredibly easy way to do this perfectly. You're going to think this is so cool. I'm going to start off by clicking that, hold down the Shift key, click that. I'm going to go up to the Object menu. I'm going to go down to Blend, and I'm going to open up what's called Blend Options. And I get the Blend Options dialog box. And I'm going to click on smooth color, and I'm going to change it to specified steps. Because what I want to do is I want to create a blend. A blend is a shape that goes into another shape. I have a line here and I have a line there. I want to make a blend out of those two. I need 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. So instead of having 8, I'm going to put 4. So I'm specifying the number of steps I want for my blend, and it's going to be 4. Okay? And I'm going to hit OK. And now I'm going to go again up to the Object menu, and I'm going to go to Blend, Make. So it's the first thing is Blend Options, and you set the number, and then Object, Blend, Make. Now watch very closely what happens to that mouth. Look at that. It actually creates the teeth for me. Isn't that super deluxe? I mean, you can't not love that, right? Really easy. So now I got 2 more things I want to show you, and then we're done for tonight. I don't really have time to do much more than this, but I will show you 2 things that I think are really pretty cool. I'm going to show you how to make that pen point, the hand that's a pen, real quick. Let me zoom in on this. Okay, so now I've zoomed in on this a little bit, and I'm going to start off by getting my rectangle tool, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click and I'm going to create a rectangle that pretty much covers the area that is that pen nib. Okay? So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to get my pen tool. If you remember, I told you that the pen tool has the regular pen tool, the add anchor point tool, the delete anchor point tool, and the convert anchor point tool. Well, this particular little part of the exercise gives me a great opportunity to show you how to work with the add anchor point and the delete anchor point tool. So before I do anything, I'm going to come over and drag a couple of guidelines. The first guideline I'm going to drag to about there, because this is the point where I want to change the angle of this. I'm also going to come over here and drag a guide out to the middle so that I can kind of identify where the center of this is. Okay? So I'm going to put 2 guides out on this, and I'm just creating right now a regular rectangle. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to select the Add Anchor Point tool. The Add Anchor Point tool does nothing more than add an anchor point to the line where, oh, come on. Hold on. This thing's going to give me trouble now. Ugh, nightmare. Oh, come on. What, are you kidding me? Is it locked? What is the problem with this? No, it's all right. Why isn't it there? Now it did it. That's great. That's, jeez, that's great. I didn't want an anchor point there. I want the anchor point here. Let's try it like this. There, okay. I got the anchor point on there. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click the add anchor point there. Oh, jeez. All right, so I guess I gotta have it deselected. I don't know why, but it's wanting me to have it deselected. So there's the line segment. I click. Oh, now it's not going to do it there. This is more trouble than it's worth. Anyway, this shouldn't be doing this. It added the anchor point here. For some reason, it's giving me trouble. There it is. I got one there. Let's see if I can just get one there. There. Okay. So I don't know why. Yeah, stupid, disobedient points. Why? I don't know. Okay, so there you go. Now I have my anchor points. That's what that pen tool does. And normally it shouldn't give you that trouble, but occasionally it does, and you just have to live with it. Now let's see what the delete anchor point does. What I want to do here is I want to click on this point, and I want to remove that point. Look at that. Isn't that incredible? It falls right into place. Watch, I do the same thing here, and look at that. Isn't that nuts? Okay, now I'm going to show you how to make the top section look correct. I'm going to now use another tool called the Direct Selection tool. The Direct Selection tool allows me to choose any one of these points alone and modify it. So I'm going to click on that point right there. That's the only one that's selected. And if I hit the left arrow key 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and then come over here and click on this anchor point and do the same thing with the right arrow key 1, 2, 3, 4 times, look at that. I got my perfectly shaped pen head. I just have to add a line segment and a circle to it. Could that be easier? I know I had some trouble with the add anchor points, but Could that be easier? These tools are really very good. They can do incredible things. I'm going to go to View menu. I'm going to fit this in window. And I'm going to show you one more thing, and then I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. This is a great little gimmick as well. I'm going to grab my rectangle tool, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to drag to create my leg. Okay, so there's my lower leg. But notice that my lower leg tapers in here. Can you see that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to click on the Free Transform tool. Can you see that the Free Transform tool is applied to my rectangular shape? Okay. Now, you guys got a Macintosh. I'm on a PC. If you take a look in the lower corner, you should see where it says Shift, right? Can you see the Shift key? Hello? Right below the Shift key, what does it say? Control or Command? Command, right? Okay. Look 2 keys over, right by the space bar, and it should say Option, right? Yeah. Hold down the Shift, Command, Option. Hold down, first place your cursor over the corner point and hold your mouse down. Hold down Shift, Command, Option, and drag, and look at that. You just tapered your shape in the perfect shape that you want. Really simple stuff. Yeah, Shift, Control, Option. Mine is Shift Command Option. Yeah. Oh, you have Shift Command, Shift Control Command? Okay. Mine is Shift Command. Mine says Shift and mine is Control and Alt. But then I'm on a PC. So yours should be Shift, Command Control, and Option Alt. That's what you should be looking for. The Shift, which is Shift, and it's Command Control, Option Alt, I believe is what they are. Anyway. So that's it. Those are the few things that I'm going to show you. Most of this other stuff is some slight variation on what you've seen me do here with this. And I'm basically done for the night. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing right now. I'm going to upload this tomorrow. Hopefully it'll go up. I know that this particular lesson is a mess. We had trouble at the beginning of the night. Please forgive me for that. But again, if you can live through that, we get pretty good towards the end. I'm going to allow everybody, I'm going to unmute you all. And you have anybody want to say anything finally before we go? I'm going to, right now, hold on. I'm going to stop recording to get the recording. All right.